Kevin Durant. He spent 9 years with the same franchise, going from Seattle to Oklahoma City. And during that time, he wasn't just another player. He was the guy. He racked up scoring titles, took home an MVP, and even led them to the NBA Finals. They made 4 Western Conference Finals appearances, and he averaged nearly 28 points per game through 641 games. That's not just tenure, that's full-on investment. Fans embraced him. He called the city home. Then, after being 1 win away from the finals in 2016, he left. Not just left, he went to Golden State. Yes, that Golden State. The same team that had just knocked Oklahoma City out after coming back from being down 3-1. The same team that won 73 games that season. The best regular season team ever, and already loaded with 2 MVPs and 4 All-Stars. It wasn't like they needed help. His decision dropped on July 4th because nothing says fireworks like detonating the soul of a franchise. 2 years, $54 million, with a player option. And just like that, Oklahoma City was cooked. The Warriors, they let go of Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut just to fit him in. Oh, and by the way, the players had been recruiting him all year. Even Jerry West jumped in with a heartfelt pitch about losing in the finals. It worked. Fans weren't just upset, they were scorched. Jerseys were burned. Boos echoed through the arena when he came back. And Westbrook, he didn't even know about it until it happened. That's cold. Then Westbrook signed an extension just weeks later. Loyalty on full display, even if it felt like a solo act by then. And once Durant got to Golden State, the results were brutal. They went 67-15, led the league in offense, and won the title. Durant averaged 25 points on nearly 54% shooting and won Finals MVP. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City fell off. They won 8 fewer games and crashed out in the first round. Westbrook had to do everything, averaging a triple-double just to keep the team breathing. Fans saw it as taking the easy road. He joined the most stacked team ever, while Oklahoma City had been so close to winning. And no, it wasn't like LeBron in 2010. Miami wasn't a proven dynasty. Golden State already was. Durant said it was about fit, about growing as a player, about finding a style that suited him. But the result was a super team wrecking the league and a fan base left holding emotional baggage. Even now, years later, the backlash hasn't fully faded. LeBron James, he spent 7 years carrying Cleveland, a team that hadn't won anything since forever and still managed to drag them to 5 straight playoff runs. He got them to the finals in 2007 at just 22. He won back-to-back MVPs in 2009 and 2010. By the time he left, he had every franchise record that mattered, averaging nearly 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists across 548 games. He was born in Akron, less than an hour from Cleveland. People didn't just watch him play, they believed he was going to break the curse. Then, after the Cavs finished with the best record in the league in 2010 and still failed to make the finals, he was done. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't send a raven. He went on live television in front of almost 10 million people and said he was taking his talents to South Beach. It wasn't just a move, it was a broadcast event, a dramatic exit wrapped in a primetime show. And it broke Cleveland. They didn't just lose their star, they lost their identity. The Cavs went from 61 wins to 19. They lost 26 games in a row. No cap space, no plan, just chaos. Their best scorers were J.J. Hickson and Mo Williams. It was like watching a car fall apart after the engine walked out. Meanwhile, Miami instantly became a powerhouse. Wade and Bosh joined forces with James. And just like that, the Big Three was born. They made the finals in all 4 seasons. James was there, and they won 2 of them. James won Finals MVP in both, dropping 28 and 25 points per game in those title runs. Miami's offense was electric. They went on a 27-game win streak in 2013 and led the league in net rating. But this wasn't like Kevin Durant joining a 73-win juggernaut. The Heat were good, but not unstoppable before James got there. What burned fans was the way he left. He said nothing to the front office. Dan Gilbert wrote a rage-filled letter calling it a cowardly betrayal, and fans lit his jersey on fire in the street. And yeah, James admitted later he messed up the way it all went down. In 2014, he wrote that Sports Illustrated letter saying he'd come back and finish what he started. He did. He won the city's first title in 52 years. But for a lot of people, that first exit still lingers. The decision wasn't just a choice. It was a spectacle that turned a hero into a villain. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Ray Allen, he spent 5 years with the Celtics, knocking down threes, helping win a title, and forming one of the most respected big threes in NBA history. They revived a franchise that hadn't sniffed a championship since 1986. Allen wasn't just a shooter. He was clutch, reliable, and essential. He hit nearly 41% from deep with Boston, helped take them to 2 finals, and set the all-time record for threes made while wearing green. Then in 2012, after losing to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals, he left. Not just left, he joined Miami. The same Miami team that just beat them. The same Miami team that had LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Allen rejected more money from Boston, a 2-year, $12 million deal, to take less and head to the Heat, $9.5 million over 3 years. The Celtics were shocked. He didn't just walk away, he ran to the enemy. That's how it felt, and the fans weren't subtle about it either. His return to TD Garden came with chants of traitor and signs calling him Judas Shuttlesworth. This wasn't just about money or playing time. Sure, Allen had issues with his role. He was benched in the playoffs for Avery Bradley and didn't like the Celtics dangling him in trade talks. He also didn't get along with Rajon Rondo. Still, leaving for the team that ended your season 2 years in a row? That cut deep. Garnett stopped talking to him. Pierce admitted it hurt. Rondo called it a shock. The bond they built winning a title in 2008 got shattered in one move. Boston collapsed without him. They finished just above 500 and got bounced in the first round. Their shooting tanked. They went from one of the league's best three-point teams to bottom 10. That offseason, Garnett and Pierce were traded. And just like that, the Big Three era was over. Allen's departure was the first domino. Meanwhile, in Miami, he was the perfect fit. He shot over 40% from deep, spaced the floor, and made defenses sweat. And then came the shot. Game 6 of the 2013 Finals. Down 3, 5 seconds left. Bang, he tied it up. Miami won in overtime and took the title in a Game 7. That single moment is burned into Celtics fans' brains. Not in celebration, but in agony. Allen later said it was the right decision. He felt disrespected, unwanted. He found a team that needed what he offered. But for Boston, it wasn't just a player leaving. It was one of their heroes suiting up for the enemy. And that's the kind of thing fans don't just forget. Karl Malone. He spent 18 seasons with the Jazz, dominating the league with John Stockton in the most reliable pick and roll ever. He won 2 MVPs, made 2 finals appearances, and piled up over 36,000 points. Utah made the playoffs every single year he was there. He wasn't just the face of the team, he was the team. Then in 2003, at 40 years old, he left. And not just left, he joined the Lakers. Yeah, the Lakers, a team the Jazz faced 7 times in the playoffs during his time in Utah. The same Lakers that knocked them out in 2001. Malone took a massive pay cut, going from over $19 million to just over $1.5 million. Utah had offered him something similar, but he saw the writing on the wall. Stockton had retired. The Jazz were about to rebuild, and Malone wasn't interested in being part of that slow march. He joined forces with Kobe Bryant, Shaq, and Gary Payton to form what looked like a super team. It wasn't just a go chase a ring situation. It was go do it with the team Jazz fans probably hate most. When he came back to Salt Lake City, the boos were loud. The signs said it all. Mailman delivered to LA. Jazz fans felt blindsided. 18 years of loyalty, and then he's in purple and gold without so much as a thank you. He didn't retire alongside Stockton. He didn't try to guide the young guys through the rebuild. He bounced. And yeah, he said it was about winning a title, not coasting. He played 42 games, averaged 13 points and almost 9 boards, and helped the Lakers get to the finals, but they got stomped by Detroit. No ring, no Hollywood ending. Meanwhile, Utah missed the playoffs for the first time since 1983. They had Andrei Kirilenko and Matt Harpring trying to fill the void, and surprise, they couldn't. The offense dipped, and the team barely stayed above 500. The Malone-Stockton era was over, and this wasn't the farewell anyone wanted. Malone later said he didn't regret the move, said it was about winning, about one last shot. But even years later, fans are still split. Some forgave him, especially after he came back for events and statue unveilings. Others still see it as a betrayal. He didn't just leave, he left for the enemy. And even if he says Utah is home, a part of that loyalty cracked the moment he signed with Los Angeles. And it's now the offseason, and while you're waiting on free agency and trades, now's the perfect time to focus on your health. That's where Factor comes in. Factor is helping me stay on track with ready-to-eat meals that take just 2 minutes. No prep, no cleanup. I've been loving the garlic herb chicken and the chili lime pork chop. Super flavorful, super easy. Instead of wasting time cooking or grabbing fast food, I can stay focused on hoops and content. Factor delivers fresh, not frozen, meals straight to your door. And they actually taste amazing. They've got over 45 options every week, so you'll never get bored. Whether you're bulking, cutting, or just trying to eat better, you can choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, or even vegan meals. And it's not just dinners. They've got breakfasts, lunches, snacks, and desserts too. Everything you need to power through your day without wasting time. Get started at factormeals.com/modernjam50 off and use code modernjam50 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code MODERN. Jam 50 off at factormeals.com/modern. Jam 50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Thank you to Factor for the sponsor. DeAndre Jordan. The summer of 2015 had the Mavericks thinking they finally pulled it off. They landed a dominant center to anchor their defense, control the glass, and help extend Dirk Nowitzki's window. Jordan gave them his word, literally. He verbally agreed to a 4-year deal worth $80 million. The Mavericks had cleared space, let go of players, and shaped their entire offseason around him. That's not just interest, that's commitment, or at least that's what they thought. For a few days, it was all smiles in Dallas. Fans were excited, the front office celebrated, and teammates like Chandler Parsons were already imagining the alley-oops. Then everything changed. Out of nowhere, the Clippers swooped in with the full force of a reality show intervention. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Doc Rivers, they all showed up at Jordan's house in Houston and wouldn't leave, not until he reversed his decision. And that's exactly what he did. Just hours before contracts could officially be signed, Jordan re-upped with Los Angeles for $88 million. No warning, no calls returned, just silence, followed by a mocking tweet with a chair emoji. The Mavericks, they were left scrambling. Dallas had no backup plan. They lost Monte Ellis. They traded Tyson Chandler, and now they were empty-handed. The guy they banked everything on just bailed. Jordan had blocked team owner Mark Cuban's calls, ignored texts, and basically ghosted the franchise. Fans lit up social media, furious. Some burned his jersey. Some just laughed in disbelief. It wasn't about the numbers. It was about the way he flipped. One day, he's the future of Dallas basketball. The next, he's hiding in a house surrounded by Clippers teammates like it's an NBA hostage movie. When he finally returned to Dallas months later for a game, the boos were deafening. Signs in the crowd read things like DeAndre lead and no loyalty. He dropped 9 points and 11 boards in the Clippers win, but it didn't matter. He was the villain of the night. Mavericks fans weren't mad he chose the Clippers. They were mad he told Dallas he was all in, then vanished like a magician in a cheap suit. The Mavericks didn't recover right away. They went 42-40 the next season and got bounced in the first round. Jordan, meanwhile, kept throwing down lobs in Los Angeles and led the league in field goal percentage again. The Clippers held on to their Lob City core, while Dallas slipped deeper into mediocrity until Luka Doncic eventually dragged them back into relevance. Years later, Jordan would join Dallas for real, but by then, the damage was done. He apologized again, said he handled it poorly, but it all felt too little too late. The betrayal wasn't about changing his mind, it was about how he did it. A handshake still means something in this league, or at least it used to. Shaq, his exit from Orlando in 1996, wasn't just a free agency move, it was a thunderclap that shattered one of the league's most promising young franchises. He was only 4 years into his career, just 24 years old, and already averaging over 27 points and 12 rebounds a game. The Magic were no longer some shiny expansion team. They were contenders. And then he left. Not just left, he bolted to Los Angeles for the brightest lights and the biggest check in NBA history at the time. $121 million, 7 years. Zero hesitation. This wasn't some aging vet chasing a ring. This was the franchise. Shaq was Orlando's identity. He had taken a new team to the finals in just its 6th season. That had never happened before. He made the Magic must-watch basketball. But what did Orlando offer him when his contract was up? A 4-year, $54 million deal. A low ball, so weak, it probably came with the free Magic Kingdom souvenir cup. Fans were stunned. Local papers ran polls. 78% of Magic fans said they felt betrayed. And how did Shaq respond? I don't want to stay where I'm not wanted. The betrayal wasn't just about the money, it was about what could have been. Shaq and Penny were electric. That 25-year-old duo was supposed to own the East for the next decade. They'd already swept Michael Jordan's Bulls once. And yeah, they got swept back by the Bulls in '96. But Chicago won 72 games that year. Nobody was beating that team. Still, the Magic won 60 games that season, second best in the league. This wasn't a team in decline. They were right there. But the Lakers were calling. Jerry West was building something. He'd already traded for Kobe Bryant on draft night. He wanted to add Shaq and start the next dynasty. And he sold Shaq on more than just basketball. Movies, music, marketing. LA had it all, and Shaq had already dipped his toes in entertainment. He wasn't just trying to be a champion, he was trying to be an icon. The fallout in Orlando was instant. They dropped to 45 wins. Penny tried to carry the load, but it wasn't the same. No one could fill that gap. The Magic missed the playoffs. And even when they rebuilt with Tracy McGrady and later Dwight Howard, they never got back to what they were in the Shaq years. That core was supposed to grow into a dynasty. Instead, it was over in 4 years. Meanwhile, the Lakers thrived. Shaq and Kobe went on to win 3 straight titles. He was Finals MVP all 3 times. He averaged nearly 30 points and 14 rebounds during that run. He became the most dominant force of his generation, but he did it in purple and gold, not in pinstripes. And for Magic fans, that made it worse. They watched him become exactly who they hoped he would be, just somewhere else. Shaq said he had no regrets. In his book, he called Orlando's offer disrespectful and said LA was a no-brainer. He said he didn't feel valued in Orlando, not just by management, but by fans and media. They questioned his leadership, his free throw shooting, his desire. And when the Lakers offered him everything, money, market, control, he took it. Over time, some of the bitterness faded. He came back for community events. The Magic retired his number in 2024. But even now, many fans can't help but wonder, what if he had stayed? What if they had offered the maximum? What if that team, that duo, had grown together? Instead, it became one of the biggest what could have been stories in NBA history, and one of the league's most brutal betrayals. Kawhi Leonard. When people talk about NBA betrayals, this one cuts different. Not because it was flashy or televised, but because it came from a player who never even raised his voice. The guy who barely speaks walked right out of the most stable franchise in basketball and didn't look back. He was supposed to be the heir to Duncan. Instead, he became the first Spur to demand an exit and actually get it. He started in 2011, shipped to San Antonio from Indiana on draft night. By 2014, he was Finals MVP at 22, locking up LeBron James and averaging nearly 18 points on 61% shooting. He wasn't loud, but his defense was brutal and efficient. He won Defensive Player of the Year twice, made All-NBA, and in 2017, he was top 3 in MVP voting. He averaged 25 points a game and carried the Spurs to 61 wins. It was like watching a quiet assassin take over the dynasty without ever making a sound. And then came Zaza. In the 2017 Western Conference Finals, Leonard landed on Zaza Pachulia's foot in Game 1. The Spurs were up by 23 when he got hurt. They lost that game and got swept. Leonard didn't play again in that series, and after that, everything unraveled. By 2018, he had a quad injury, quadriceps tendinopathy. The Spurs cleared him to play in December. He didn't agree. He played 9 games. 9. Tony Parker publicly said his own quad injury was 100 times worse. Manu questioned him. The team held a players-only meeting to confront him. Leonard didn't budge. He trusted his own doctors and didn't trust the Spurs anymore. Then came the trade demand. Kawhi wanted out. Specifically, he wanted Los Angeles. The Spurs said no thanks to sending him to a rival and dealt him to Toronto. Fans lost it. Jersey burnings. Booing. He had gone from the quiet franchise star to the guy who ghosted the team and walked out without an explanation. San Antonio wasn't just losing a player, they were losing their culture. He went to Toronto, played 60 games under strict load management, and then casually led them to their first title in history. He hit a Game 7 buzzer beater over Joel Embiid. He outplayed Giannis. Then he took down the Warriors in the finals and walked away again, back to Los Angeles, this time as a Clipper. The Spurs, meanwhile, haven't been the same. They kept things together with LaMarcus Aldridge for a bit, but the dynasty, that ended the moment Kawhi left. No more finals, no more playoff streak, just a long, slow rebuild. Popovich kept it classy, the fans didn't. When Kawhi returned to San Antonio, they booed him like he was the villain in a Marvel movie. And Kawhi, he didn't say much. He never does. He said he did what was best for him. That's it. The franchise that groomed him, the teammates who vouched for him, none of it seemed to matter in the end. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about market glitz. It was about control. He didn't trust their doctors. He didn't like being doubted. And when the most drama-free franchise in the league got caught up in all that noise, it broke something. The fact that he immediately won another title just poured salt on the wound. Spurs fans had believed he was going to carry the torch. Instead, he blew it out and lit his own path. Vince Carter. The moment he landed in Toronto back in 1998, everything changed for that team. He became the face of a franchise that desperately needed an identity. And for a while, he gave them exactly that. His dunks weren't just highlight reel material, they were cultural events. He led them to their first playoff wins, sold out arenas, and gave fans hope that this team could be more than a footnote. But all that goodwill, it crumbled fast. By the 2003 to 2004 season, things had already started slipping. The Raptors missed the playoffs, and Carter's shooting dropped to a career low. The injuries weren't helping either. Then came the 2004 to 2005 start, and it got worse. Carter looked like a shell of himself. His scoring fell off. The team was 7-15. And rumors swirled about him skipping practices and coasting during games. Then came that TNT interview where he flat out said he hadn't always tried. Just imagine how fans felt hearing that. So on December 17th, 2004, the Raptors finally pulled the trigger. They shipped Carter off to the New Jersey Nets for what turned out to be a pretty underwhelming return. Alonzo Mourning never even suited up. The rest of the pieces? Role players and draft picks that led to absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Carter exploded in New Jersey, dropping 27.5 points per game and dragging that team to the playoffs. The contrast was brutal. Toronto got stuck in rebuild mode. Chris Bosh was promising, but not ready to carry a team. The offense sputtered, the losses piled up, and the franchise felt like it had taken a massive step backward. And fans weren't just disappointed, they were furious. When Carter returned to Toronto in April 2005, nearly 20,000 fans booed him nonstop. They held up signs calling him a quitter and a traitor. Some even threw stuff on the court. The anger wasn't just about the trade, it was about feeling abandoned. Carter's clashes with coaches, his frustration with management, the cryptic interviews, it all added up to one thing. People believed he gave up, and that stung in a city that treated him like royalty. He said later that he wanted a fresh start and didn't feel supported. And years down the line, he tried to make amends. His jersey even got retired by the team. But for a lot of fans, the betrayal left a scar that never fully faded. Carlos Boozer. In 2004, the Cavaliers thought they were building something special. They had a 19-year-old LeBron James coming off a monster rookie season and a young power forward in Carlos Boozer, who looked like the perfect sidekick. Boozer had just averaged over 15 points and 11 rebounds per game, playing 75 games and putting up double-doubles like it was his day job. Cleveland's rebuild was ahead of schedule, and fans were buying in. Then came free agency. Boozer was a restricted free agent, but Cleveland made a gamble. Instead of locking him into a small, team-friendly option worth under $700,000, they decided to decline it, trusting Boozer's word that he'd re-sign for a 6-year, $41 million deal. It was a handshake agreement, one of those gentlemen's deals that is supposed to mean something. Cleveland let him loose based on nothing but trust, thinking he'd stay loyal. He didn't. Just days later, Utah swooped in with the 6-year, $70 million offer, and Boozer took it. Cleveland couldn't match it anymore because they'd released his rights to try and do the right thing. That right thing turned out to be a costly mistake. Boozer bolted for the Jazz, and Cavaliers fans lost their minds. They felt played, betrayed, double-crossed by a guy they thought was part of the future. Fans torched jerseys. Local bars had chants. Cleveland became the butt of every never trust a handshake joke in the league. On the court, it hit hard. Cleveland missed the playoffs again in 2004 to 2005. LeBron put up over 27 points, nearly 8 rebounds, and over 7 assists, but the help wasn't there. Drew Gooden filled in, but his numbers didn't match Boozer's presence. Rebounding dropped. Interior scoring took a hit. The Cavs hovered in mediocrity while Boozer, despite missing games, averaged over 20 points and nearly 9 rebounds for Utah. This wasn't a trade. It wasn't an aging vet chasing a ring. It was a young guy, just 2 years in, who backed out of a deal and cashed in somewhere else. The fact that Cleveland management essentially handed him the keys made it worse. They expected loyalty and got left hanging. Years later, Boozer said it was just business. He talked about financial security and fit. And yeah, $70 million is tough to turn down, but fans didn't forget. Even when he came back as a member of the Jazz, the boos were loud. Signs popped up calling him a sellout. It wasn't just about losing a player. It was about being lied to. The what if still lingers. What if Boozer had stayed? What if LeBron had that steady inside presence from day one? Maybe the Cavaliers wouldn't have had to wait until 2007 for a finals trip. Maybe LeBron's first stint in Cleveland plays out differently. Instead, Boozer left a hole that wasn't filled for years, in a fan base that never fully forgave him. James Harden. For 8 seasons, he was Houston's guy. They built the offense around him, gave him the ball, the freedom, the roster pieces, everything. He delivered too. An MVP, 3 scoring titles, playoff runs, offensive explosions no one else was touching. From the moment he landed in 2012, Harden turned the Rockets into a contender and himself into a walking bucket. But by early 2021, the relationship wasn't just strained, it was done. Loudly, awkwardly, and very publicly. It all spiraled after the 2020 playoff exit. Houston lost to the Lakers in the second round, and everything unraveled. Coach Mike D'Antoni and GM Daryl Morey left. Russell Westbrook got traded. Harden, still under contract, decided he was out too, not quietly. He skipped training camp, showed up late, violated league protocols by partying maskless, and basically let everyone know he was already mentally packed for Brooklyn. His comment, after a blowout loss, "We're just not good enough," was the final shove. The trade came fast after that. On January 13th, 2021, the Rockets sent Harden to Brooklyn in a 4-team deal. Houston got picks and some players but nothing that replaced their superstar. Harden joined Kevin Durant and Kyrie in Brooklyn, and just like that, Houston's title hopes vaporized. The fallout was brutal. Fans were furious. The guy they backed through playoff meltdowns, through controversial style choices, through everything, just bounced. Not just left, but trashed the team on the way out. Burned jerseys, boos, traitor signs. It wasn't just disappointment, it felt personal. On the court, it was a cliff dive. Houston finished 17-55 that season, dead last. Offensive rating tanked. The roster, now led by John Wall and Christian Wood, couldn't carry the weight. The Rockets went from a Western power to a lottery regular. Meanwhile, Harden was putting up nearly 25 points, over 10 assists, and almost 9 rebounds for Brooklyn, slotting in like he'd been there forever. What made it worse was how visible it all was. Stars leave, sure, but Harden made it a spectacle. The public trade demand, the passive-aggressive pressers, the on-court effort that screamed, "Get me out." Fans don't forget that, especially not a city that gave him the keys for nearly a decade. His return to Houston in a Nets jersey didn't help either. He dropped 29 points and 14 assists in a win, with boos raining down and signs calling him everything short of a villain. Even now, fans argue about him. Some say he earned the right to chase a title. Others say he quit when it got hard. And the Rockets? Still rebuilding. They've got Jalen Green, a pile of draft picks, and a whole lot of what-ifs. One of those what-ifs will always be what could have happened if Harden stayed and rode it out. But he didn't. He wanted a super team, a new city, a new start. And for Houston, that decision cut deep. Kyrie, when he stood on that court in front of 20,000 Celtics fans and said he was planning to re-sign, you could feel the building shake. Boston believed him. This was the guy, a proven champion, flashy but lethal, stepping in to be the leader after Isaiah Thomas's exit. He said all the right things about legacy, about building something, about staying long-term. And then months later, he ghosted them like a bad first date. That promise in October 2018, it wasn't behind closed doors. It wasn't a rumor. It was Kyrie, mic in hand, telling fans he was in. A public declaration that became the foundation for a season full of title talk. He averaged nearly 24 points and 7 assists, shot nearly 50% from the field, and made the All-NBA second team. On paper, he was doing exactly what they needed. But behind the scenes, it was unraveling. Chemistry problems festered. His leadership style clashed with a younger roster trying to find its own voice. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown weren't just developing pieces. They were ready to lead. Kyrie wasn't exactly interested in playing big brother. His post-game comments shifted from optimistic to cryptic. By All-Star Weekend in February, he was already walking back his pledge, saying he'd do what was best for him. That didn't sound like someone committed to Boston. Then came the playoff. They swept Indiana, but Milwaukee dismantled them in 5. Kyrie shot 35% in the series, turned the ball over, and looked disinterested. After Game 5, he gave a flat, "It just didn't work out" response. And that was basically it. By July, he was in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant, signing a deal worth over $136 million. The Celtics never got a real explanation. He didn't sit down with the front office. He didn't give fans any closure. He just left. The guy who promised to stay had teamed up with another star in a rival city, and Boston was left to clean up the mess. Fans were furious. They booed his name, torched jerseys, and plastered "Kyrie lied" across signs every time he came back. It wasn't just the move, it was how it happened. It was the silence, the feeling of being strung along. And the worst part, he was good. In Brooklyn, he averaged over 27 points per game when healthy. In the 2021 playoffs, he dropped nearly 27 a night. Before injury struck, he was still a star, just not Boston's. The Celtics adjusted. They built around Tatum and Brown. They brought in Kemba Walker, then shifted again. They eventually won in 2024, but it took years. And the fan base never forgot that the original plan had Kyrie at the center. They weren't just rooting for a star, they were counting on him. And he bailed. Anthony Davis. For 7 seasons, he was supposed to be the guy, the face of a franchise that rarely gets one. The #1 pick, the generational talent, the brow that New Orleans built everything around. They gave him the keys, the marketing, the billboards, and for a while, it looked like the gamble might pay off. Multiple All-Star appearances, All-NBA teams, playoff dominance when they got there. But by the middle of the 2018-19 season, Davis wasn't sticking around to see how it ended. He was already gone in his head. When he hit the league in 2012, New Orleans embraced him like a savior. He lived up to the hype early, averaging nearly 24 points and 10 rebounds per game Over 7 seasons, blocking everything, dominating both ends. He made the All-Star team 6 times, led the league in blocks multiple seasons, and even had playoff success in 2018 with a sweep of Portland. But the roster around him never stayed consistent. Jrue Holiday was solid, and DeMarcus Cousins brought hope for one glorious half season. But injuries and front office misfires kept resetting the plan. So in January of 2019, Davis made it official, through his agent, of course. He wanted out, publicly, mid-season, while still under contract. The trade demand wasn't quiet or respectful. It was loud, calculated, and built entirely around forcing a move to the Lakers. The NBA fined him $50,000 for going public, but the damage wasn't measured in fines. It was measured in boos, in sign, in fans feeling like they'd been tossed aside. New Orleans tried to play him sparingly after that. Load management, mysterious minor injuries, anything to keep him on ice until they could find a deal. He played some games, but the body language was checked out. The fans knew it, the team knew it, everyone did. It wasn't just that he wanted to leave, it was how he left. The trade finally came in June. Davis went to Los Angeles for a package of young players and picked Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, all solid pieces, and draft capital that became part of the Pelicans' rebuild. The Lakers instantly turned into contenders. Davis teamed up with LeBron James, won a ring in 2020, and made it look easy. Meanwhile, the Pelicans were back to square one. Zion Williamson looked promising. Ingram turned into an all-star, but the team still hasn't made it past the first round. Fans felt abandoned. Davis was supposed to be different. He didn't just walk, he walked during the season, with time left on his contract, while wearing a "That's All Folks" shirt before his final game. You can't make that. He came back to New Orleans later and dropped 41 in a win. The boos were loud, the pain was louder. He said later it was about chasing a title, that he wanted to win and didn't believe the Pelicans could get him there. Maybe he was right, but that doesn't change how it felt. For a franchise that rarely gets a player like that, it felt like he walked out on a promise. New Orleans built around him, they dreamed with him, and he left before the job was done. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.